Carolyn Dubie here. Today I am playing in my Vintage Ledger journal with this great heart stencil by Pam Carriker with some pan pastels. Now I've already stenciled this heart. It was just acrylic paint, and now what I'm going to do is add some pan pastels to this. I'm going to put the lighter color in the middle. Nice part about pan pastels is because they're dry, they're not going to make that ink that's already on the page smear. And now I'm going to come in with another color of pan pastel on one of my handy dandy cosmetic sponges there. No fancy tools involved for me on this one. I've got these two colors. It's very obvious where they are. Now I'm going to take the very fancy Kleenex, and it could be a paper towel, it could be cloth, anything you want. I happen to have a Kleenex box right there, so that's what I'm using. And I'm just sort of blending the colors together with that Kleenex. This isn't super precision. This is just about blending the colors very softly. And that is one of the great things about pan pastels, is how gently, softly things can blend together. I had this idea to get some color on the background as sort of a base that the heart is resting on. And as I did this, oops, the color I chose was pretty close to the color of the paint that I used through the stencil. So, whoops, doesn't give me the look that I wanted. Never fear, it's just an oops, nothing to be afraid of. So I went and grabbed a lighter pink and then went over that. And by the process of me putting the pink on it, I'm actually blending those together, and I really like how it turned out. Now, pan pastels smudge and smear. That's what makes them great. However, when you're working on top of it, you'll get smudge and smear. So be aware of that. Now, as I'm putting some words on here, I decided to pull a couple of words out of this whole big stencil and put them together in a different order. And as I'm tracing these, it's not a perfect tracing job. The pen is going to slip a little bit for me because it always slips for me when I do this kind of stuff. That's one of the reasons why I love that these letters are not perfectly straight and smooth, because it gives it more of that hand-drawn, organic feel to it than being very mechanical, so that if my pen slips a little bit, it'll never be noticed. And yes, I designed this stencil this way for this very reason. Here you can see how it's placed inside the heart. Now I'm going to zoom in so you can see what it looks like up close. Obviously the letters aren't completely filled in there, so I'm just going to take the pen and fill in the rest of the areas approximately where they are. Now the pressure's off because this is a hand-drawn look, so it does not have to be absolutely exact or perfect in any way, shape, or form. Well, now that I've got one word on there, I want to position my next word, and I want to do the word you, and I can put it below it. So as I'm selecting out one word, you can do this with a single letter, you can do this with a word, you can then rearrange the words that are on the stencil to make the phrases or sentences that you want to make. And you can probably see where my pen sort of slipped on the Y, and this really isn't a perfect thing for me. And you'll notice in a minute when I lift this up, I kind of forgot to trace some of this. Not a problem. So I'm going to fill in the Y and the O so I get them so they look like the letters that I want them to look like. And then I come to that big old U where I forgot to trace part of it. All I'm going to do is put the stencil right back on top of it and trace the line that I need so I can finish tracing out the word U. I probably could have eyeballed it, but if I can draw the line with the stencil, I'm going to use the stencil to help me out there. So as I get my words here, the next thing I need to do is make them stand out. So what I'm going to do is grab some heavy-bodied white paint, and I'm going to fill them in with some acrylic paint. And you'll probably notice this isn't perfect either. Those lines that I drew to give me a place to paint, they're really my guidelines. If I go a little outside or inside of the line, it's not going to bother me one bit. And you'll see why in just a moment. I let the paint completely dry before I went on to the next step, which was outlining everything with a Stabilo pencil. And this covered up all my edges and added some definition to things. I also went back to the large heart and added some lines here and there kind of randomly. Well, thanks for joining me as I played in my art journal. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you subscribed to my YouTube channel, signed up for my newsletter, popped over to my blog and said hello, or found me in Facebook or Google+, and you can find all the stencils used today over at Stencil Girl Products. Thanks for being a part of this colorful journey.